Hi, this is Joyce Polino Crane. I'm the news director at WestfordCAT, and today I'm here with Sue Hanley, who is the school nurse at the Stony Brook School, but also she's a mental health advocate. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. I brought you here today to ask you about how do people survive the holidays, these upcoming holidays, when they're feeling depressed or blue and really can't really get into the spirit of the holidays.
Well, I think, I think anybody who's experiencing depression usually has a very difficult time around holidays because it's supposed to be a joyous time, and for a lot of people, if they're feeling a sadness, they feel even worse about themselves around the holidays. And then, of course, there's other people that are suffering from depression that have had some terrible sorrows in their life or losses, and I think that it just, obviously, at the holidays when those people are not there, for example, it exacerbates symptoms.
The memories.
Memories of the person, exactly, right. But my daughter who's doing great now, but she has suffered with depression, and I know for me, it was changing things up at the holidays. It was not doing the same routine. One year we went to the movies, I remember.
Oh,
and
I like that.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of once you get yourself out of your normal routine, it can almost be distracting and a way to, kind of have a new normal, so to speak.
Yes.
And another thing when you're suffering from depression, doing something for somebody else is incredibly healing, So going to a nursing home, or if somebody who needs help wrapping packages or watching their child or something, that can be very healing as well.
I sometimes have to remind myself that expression, be the light.
Yeah.
Be the light instead of when I'm feeling down or blue. That's exactly what helps me is what can I do for someone else?
Yeah. Well, what you just said about being the light, interesting too. There is light therapy out there too. And one of the problems we have at this time of year is seasonal affective disorder.
It's
and
so dark
yeah,
so soon.
It's depressing.
Yeah.
Whether you have depression issues or not, I think it weighs heavy on you because it's dark so early, it's dark in the morning, it's cold, and there are genuinely lights out there that you can buy that, you sit in front of them for 15, 20 minutes a day that can actually help your moods,
Yes.
So there's just all different kinds of things. And exercise, I can't, stress enough how important that is. And when I talk about exercise, I'm not even talking about going out and running, it's taking a walk. It's making sure that you don't just crawl under the covers, even though that's what you really feel like doing.
Right. Or even 10 minutes of yoga.
Yeah.
Simple exercises that just stretch you. And give you get you breathing a little bit.
Yeah. The other thing too, and I say this to kids they come into my office, and I'll say, when you're in a sad place or you're down, you've got to find something to give you joy and happiness. And my favorite is the Ellen DeGeneres show. And I joke around with the kids about that. But finding something that's going to make you laugh, or Elf, I love that movie, right? Something that is going to put a smile on your face and maybe pull you up a little bit from that, as opposed to watching something that's a tearjerker.
So here's my secret. I laugh every single night, and that's because I watch reruns of Modern Family.
Oh, yeah, but that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of, and also the other thing that's really important is having a plan, is having a plan in place for when you are feeling a certain way. Like you say, have a Modern Family available that you can throw in the video or something. It's planning ahead for that, and half the time when you plan, you don't end up needing it because it's almost that placebo-like effect. There's something in place if I go down that path, but maybe I won't,
Right.
So I really do think the whole mixing it up at the holidays is probably the best way to get through it. It really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are we worried about the kids? Our teens in town?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? We were talking about this at school recently. Everything seems, statistically, things seem higher. And I don't know if that's because we're better educated so that we're identifying more, or if it's because of technology with the cell phones and that fear of missing out that a lot of kids experience, or this idea sometimes on a phone, everybody's life looks so wonderful, and if you're feeling like your life is not so wonderful, it can bring you down, even though this is not always reality, what's on social media.
Oh,
right?
It's not.
Yeah,
I can tell you because my Facebook page is not everything.
That's right,
happening.
right. Yeah.
You can make it what you want it to be.
That's right, right.
And
Well,
that's
and,
not all of your life.
No, and the reality of it is people, when somebody says, "How are you?" they don't really want to know, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they don't want to hear you say all the negative stuff.
I know.
They just don't, and so I think that's the same thing with Facebook. If you put up all the depressing things,
nobody's
going to read it.
Right. And so I think it's appropriate to just keep it light on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so if you're the mom or dad or guardian of a teen who's showing signs of depression, what would you recommend they do, or what advice would you give?
Well, I think the very most important thing is acceptance. I think it's very easy for a parent to blame a child's mood on anything but mental health. I think there's this people, if there's stomach aches or headaches, they'd much rather it be a GI issue or something medical, because people are scared about mental health. And I think they're scared because they don't know enough.
Right.
And I would say probably the most important thing we can do for anybody is to listen and to validate and say, "I'm so sorry for what you're going through." Those, and especially with teenagers, because I think they look at us like we have no idea what they're going through, which we don't, because we're not teenagers. But if we say that to them, that I have no idea what you're going through, but I'm sorry that you're in this much pain. Tell me more. Share with me a little bit more about what's going on with you. That can be helpful. But denying or pretending it's not a problem is probably the worst thing you can do, because the child feels like they're not being heard.
Yeah. That seems dangerous to ignore.
Yeah. And sometimes it's about helping them, ride out the wave. I was talking to a parent recently, and I think, when a child has depression issues and then they're getting some treatment, okay, and things are good, and I think the parents get scared that, what if it happens again, And what I try to say is, chances are it will. And I like to think of it like a cancer diagnosis, that yes, please God, you'll go into remission, but there could be exacerbations. And just like you got through it the first time, that's the beauty of when somebody has experienced depression and then they get help and they feel better, when they go through it again, to be able to say, you got through it the first time, you're going to do it again. I know you are.
Yeah.
I know you are, And again, it's walking the journey with them too, because it's a lonely journey when you're going through that.
Yes, especially if you're young and you haven't had a lot of life to have lived.
Well, and the brain development. I think that's the hardest part is, and as a parent, it's figuring out what is typical teenage behavior development and what's not. It makes it tricky because teenagers are tough,
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, so it's a definite slippery slope with young people on the best way to help them and even identify what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Acton had several suicides last school year, and Westford has been spared of that at this point, right?
We had a young person went through the Westford school system. He's a young man in college that did, which was obviously tragic.
It was very tragic, yes.
And my heart goes out to his family, and I think it's the hardest.
And mine too.
The hardest illness, because everybody, I think, feels after the fact that, what
could we have done?
Yeah. So.
And oftentimes there's really nothing.
Well, and I do think sometimes a lot of times it's a moment of feeling as though you can't handle that pain anymore. And I really believe that most people who take their lives really don't want to die. They just don't know how to live. I believe that, and I know even from my own experience, I've definitely seen as my daughter's gotten older, it's gotten better. I know there's, certainly she's still getting help, counseling, meds, etc. But she's doing really well, and
That's great to hear.
So yeah.
Because as you may recall, I've sort of peripherally followed
Yeah,
her
you have. I know.
for over a number of years now.
Yeah.
So I'm always happy to hear that she's doing well.
Thank you for always asking. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So let's just set a scenario. It's Christmas Day, and I think of two different classes of people: those who do celebrate Christmas, and those who don't, and they're home without any. It's not a gathering day necessarily for those people. So it's got to be hard on that level.
Right.
But I also think it's sometimes hard on the level of we have to go to so-and-so's house.
Yep.
And, the family dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
Engage in the family dynamics that no one really likes.
Right. I don't think there's a family out there that doesn't have, oh my gosh, right? Some of the family, I think it's going in with an open mind too. I've often felt that when we set ourselves up for, this is going to be awesome, it's going to be wonderful, we can be disappointed. And if we go in with an open mind that, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath, I'm going to make the most of it, and we can be unexpectedly surprised because it's almost as though we've shifted our mindset to an expectation versus just an acceptance, and I don't know. I mean, I've experienced that in my life, that when I have expectations, I can be disappointed. When I just have acceptance, I'm usually pleasantly surprised, And so I think that's good advice for all of us, right? Because holidays I don't care whether you have mental health issues or not, they're incredibly stressful, Whether it's a financial stress or emotional stress, or, there's lots of things to be stressed out about at the holidays. So it's making sure that we focus on the
positive.
The positive,
I try to practice gratitude.
Yep.
And it does make it more, things that I might have, prior to changing the mindset, might not have liked so much.
Right.
I kind of realized that, I'm fortunate that, I have someone's home to go to and share dinner with, and, and just sit back and enjoy the day without any stress.
I know.
It's a day that, once it's here,
right, and everything's done. Right?
Right,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's like finals week.
It's true. It's true. Well, I also think suffering, and I'm not saying suffering is fun. It's not at all fun. But when you can get through something difficult, you use the word gratitude. I think there's a deeper understanding when it's good, how good it really is.
Yes.
And so anybody who's going through difficult times, I think making sure they remember that this is for now, not forever, that they're not going to feel like this forever, and really believing that, because I do think we have control over our thoughts, and not everybody realizes that, but having that positive mindset. So, going to bed every night with some level of gratitude. I know people have talked about gratitude journals, writing down something you're grateful for every night when you go to bed puts you in that frame of mind, at the end of your day. Right. And if you get into a routine of saying, okay, I've got to find something to be grateful for, you start looking for it earlier in the day.
You
too,
do.
So again, it's figuring it out, planning ahead.
Yes.
I do believe planning ahead for how you're going to handle the difficulties,
It's funny, it was only, I'm rather old now, and it was only about 2 years ago that I suddenly realized that I don't have to feel bad. And it just sort of finally occurred to me that if I'm feeling sad, I can change that emotion. I just don't have to feel sad.
Right, exactly. Or you identify, I feel sad, but then you do something about it. You change it, is what you're saying. You change it.
Yeah.
And that's the part I think people don't realize that they do have control over. They do.
They do, and I'm so grateful you came here today to speak with us and share those tips with us.
Yeah, well, thank
Very
you.
much appreciate it.
Well, anytime, I appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday.
Happy holidays, everyone. For WestfordCAT News, this is Joyce Polino Crane. Have a great day.